Hey everyone, this is Patrick with the 307 RPG podcast, and I just want to take a moment and say thank you to all of our amazing patrons. It's because of you that we're able to do the things that we do. If you like our show and you want to support us, you can find us on patreon.com/theforgeherald. Thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 307 RPG podcast. My name is Patrick, and I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by my two co-hosts.
I'm Nolan.
And I'm Cody.
Fellas, what is going on? What is new? Are you guys doing anything exciting in the world of gaming?
Continue to farm dailies forever in World of Warcraft.
Oh, there's a new patch, isn't there?
Yeah. And as usually, the rabbit has jumped on the hamster wheel. So
I don't miss doing dailies. I just got to say, I don't miss that at all. Although I feel like grinding greater rifts in Diablo 3 is like doing dailies.
yeah, so you got some real grinding going on yourself right now. So
I do. My goal is to hit greater rift 115, and I cleared 113, and I don't know how much time I have left. I think there's maybe a month left, so I'm hoping I can pull it off.
yeah, you'll get there.
You're closing in, man. You'll get there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, so for tonight's show, we are, of course, continuing our look at Cults of the Blood Gods, which is what has been our theme for this month. Last week, Nolan went over the discipline Oblivion. I encourage you to check that out. Before that, we talked about the Cult of Mithras, as well as having an interview with Jacob Burgess, who is one of the writers of Cults of the Blood Gods, which wrapped up an insanely successful Kickstarter. Tonight, we will be discussing the Hecata, which is the Clan of Death, and that is our topic of the night. But before we do that, we do have some news to get into. And of course, we like to kick things off with 307 RPG news. And that is really, we're just kind of giving you a heads up of what's coming up next month, which is, what did they call it, Cody?
Mage-ebuary.
Mage-ebuary. So our theme for the month of February is going to be Mage the Ascension. We will bring you interviews from the hosts of Mage the Podcast, Adam Simpson and Terry Robinson. We'll be talking about the 9 traditions. And of course, we'll be doing, what else are we going to do, Nolan?
I think at one point we planned on figuring out enough about it to maybe create some characters, throw them up for Patreon, maybe throw them up on Drive-Thru RPG, but how we would create our characters going forward into that world.
Yeah, so if you're a Patreon supporter of 307 RPG, you will have access to these characters that we create for Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition for free, which is awesome because we love our Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
And Cody, you did an interview. In fact, you just wrapped up an interview with Terry Robinson, who is one of the hosts of Mage the Podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I got to learn about the spheres of magic and how they are used in conjunction to create spells. And got to learn about a rote, which is like a spell that can be taught to other people. This happens to actually be Terry's favorite rote, and it is bowel movement, where you sorry, you needless to say, you crap your own pants and teleport it into someone else's.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know what to say.
Right. I was like, what is this? What, this is weird. And it uses, well, it combines the life sphere for the bowel movement, I'm assuming, and correspondence, which is like the spatial distortion. And literally, he didn't have it came from one of his players, and they didn't have the ability to make the person that they were trying to distract, a pit boss, crap their own pants as a distraction. So he literally crapped his own pants and teleported it into the pit boss's pants. It's
Awesome.
Wow. That's insane.
And I'm in love with this game after that. Like, I'm like, wow, you can just like problem solve anything. This is amazing.
Don't let John play.
Oh my gosh, no, don't, that'd be bad. So yeah, we will be talking about Mage throughout the month of February. So you'll be able to catch Cody's interview with Terry and learn how to transport your poop to someone else's pants. Because everybody needs to know that.
Huh.
Yeah, it's riveting stuff here on 307 RPG.
Zinger.
And of course, I did an interview with Adam Simpson where it really is, we're taking a very introductory look at this game. We've all heard of it, but never really played it or looked into any of the material. So we had Adam come on and he just kind of gave us a brief overview of the game for beginners. And then, of course, Terry went in a little deeper, and we'll be going a little deeper with the 9 traditions. So that'll be next month. Before that, though, we have some news to cover, and there was some stuff that came out from D&D this week. Nolan, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Yeah, I think in the last week or two, we had another round of, let's see here, what was it? UA material. We got another round of that. Some different takes on Barbarian, Monk, Paladin, and Warlock. And just kind of as a brief overview of it, the Barbarian is called Path of the Beast. It is dealing more with the lycanthropy side of things. So when you rage, you choose like whether you grow claws or a tail or a bite, and you get to add that into your attack. And it's kind of a hand-me-down tradition from lycanthropes. So, one of your parents was or is a lycanthrope, maybe a fae cursed you or gifted you with this ability, or an ancient animal spirit dwells within you, and that's it manifesting and coming out. So kind of a neat take on it, giving for a strength melee, not necessarily a druid shape changer, but an opportunity, or as it came down to me, it was probably just let's make Wolverine.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah. Monks, they added a opportunity to create ability to heal, I guess is how it would be, called Hands of Healing. Now you can start using your key points to align someone's chakra or harness the chi in their own body to respond to heal, or also use that to start to attack other people with it as well, like Hands of Harm and Hands of Healing. So kind of a yin yang approach to it. A neat scene on it, or I guess a take on it. We've seen that with Scarred Lands, and I really enjoyed it. This one looked pretty neat. The Paladin one I really liked as well. Oath of the Watchers. A lot of it has to do with almost their entire spell list is around warding or guarding. They're very hard to get the drop on. They see things coming a mile away type ability. One of their neat things was their 7th level ability. They now add their charisma modifier to the initiative rolls, and they do that in their aura as well. So your entire party is now better at attacking or not getting attacked.
Okay.
And the last one for the Warlock was the Noble Genie. So we finally got another good, I guess, as good as it can be, is making a pact and selling your soul. But you get to have a genie as your patron. And there's some, you kind of tethered and bound to this creature. You get a magical vessel of them, whether it is a lamp or an urn. You get some elemental resistances with it, but yeah, just a good flavor, something you can make a pact with. It doesn't necessarily have to be eternal damnation.
Cool. And that is available in the show notes. I will have a link to that UA listed in the show notes, so you can check that out. Nolan, there was something else that we talked about for the fires that are going on that's ravaging Australia. Why don't you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so I was cycling through Twitter. I follow Matt Mercer, and he has done a revised edition or maybe a final update, or taking what he's learned and now applied that back to the Blood Hunter, which is one of my favorite classes that I've never gotten to play, just because guess what? I get a lightning sword. I'm down. You had me. I'm good. So a bunch of people had gotten together on the DMs Guild and done a UA for AU awareness. It was like $150 of UA material for $10, and really, really hard to beat. The Witches of Underwillow, Volo's Lost Encounters, The Layer Between, a patron for 5e, Joy of Monster Cooking, Scoundrel Spellbook, City of Eyes, Encounters of the Savage Seas, Grappler's Handbook, College of Caterwalling, The Swamp Beast, Cartographer, which is a new ranger subclass that's like a map maker, Warriors of Shannai, The Ghostly Library, More Dangerous Game, Circles of Elementals, a druid subclass. Yeah, it goes on and on and on. And for $10, you get quite a bit of content, and it goes towards a good cause. I believe D&D did one as well with some of their materials that they're using as well. But I just happened to take a look at this one here. I was down with the Blood Hunter, and so gave it a go.
Yeah, that's really neat, and it is again. I'm going to be linking that in the show notes so people can check that out.
Yeah, it's nice to see him doing something, and again, an opportunity there to get some books at a great price and help somebody out while you're doing it. So,
Agreed. Anything else in the world of D&D?
not that I'm aware of outside of that. I'm sure there's something we're missing, but that was kind of the big stuff this week for me.
Okay, and of course we have the new book coming out on March 17th, so I'm sure we'll be discussing that one come the month of April.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's head over to Onyx Path and see what's going on over there. So not a whole lot with Onyx Path. I did notice that the crew from Onyx Path had their annual meeting at Midwinter Gaming Convention in Milwaukee. They just kind of mapped out what 2020 is going to look like. You know, Kickstarter fulfillments, new Kickstarters coming, what they're going to be doing, what games supplements they want to bring about. As you all know, we've mentioned it a lot. Of course, Cults of the Blood Gods recently wrapped up, and at the moment they have no Kickstarters going on. That's because they're getting ready to launch Hunter the Vigil to Kickstarter, which is they're awaiting approval from White Wolf and Paradox Entertainment. Now, this is a Chronicles of Darkness game. We don't know anything other than that it's a second edition to that game, and it will be coming to Kickstarter. We don't know when because, again, they're awaiting approval. Other things with Onyx Path and their massive amount of Kickstarters is I got Chicago by Night in.
Yeah, it looked really good.
I am ecstatic about this book. This book just looks fantastic. So I'm really, really looking forward to. In fact, I do believe our group is getting together this Friday to play. Isn't that correct?
So I'm told.
Last I heard.
So we will be starting Chicago by Night, The Sacrifice, which is where the La Sombra officially, become part of the Camarilla. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm really excited about it. It'll be our first jump into V5. I love second edition vampires, so this will be a nice introduction to the more modern rule set. Other than that, I know there's some other stuff that comes out for Onyx Path. They do a lot of other games, but we kind of focus on the World of Darkness stuff. So I know there's some stuff that came out for the Trinity Continuum and some other things that we just don't cover those games. So I would highly suggest you head over to theonyxpath.com and check out some of the stuff that they have coming out. Oh, I guess, I do talk about They Come From Beneath the Sea, which I did just get the backer, or not just get, I got it last week, the backer PDF for that one, which is a really interesting story path game. It is you basically play cheesy sci-fi movies from the 50s, and the DM is called the director, and the players are called the cast. And I'm actually really looking forward to playing that game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's like perfectly set up for one-shots.
Yeah, it looked neat, and apparently it was popular enough that they gave it another go.
Yep. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. They announced the next version of that game called They Come From Beyond the Grave, which is like your 70s and 80s horror movies.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So that's all the news that I have for Onyx Path and, of course, Dungeons & Dragons. Cody, is there anything that you want to mention in the world of Kickstarter right now?
Kickstarter was quiet yesterday when I was checking it. Not a whole lot on there that was really jumping at me.
Okay.
I hate to say that because I'm sure there was something out there that somebody puts up there.
No, that's fine. If it didn't jump out at you, that's okay. And if you are somebody who is running a Kickstarter and you'd like us to talk about it, shoot Cody a note, shoot me a note, let us know, and we'd be happy to check it out. That's all I got, guys.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else.
All right, so now we've come to our topic of the night. And as you know, we've been doing kind of this deep dive, if you will, or even just an overview of Cults of the Blood Gods, which recently wrapped up an insanely successful Kickstarter. Congratulations to Onyx Path. And so we've discussed the Cult of Mithras. We've had a writer on to talk about it. We've Nolan did a great job looking at the discipline Oblivion and how it differs for the Hecata and for the Lasombra. And so now we're going to look at the Hecata themselves. This is a new clan that came out in Cults of the Blood Gods. New, I'm using air quotes here, friends, because new is very subjective. So let's take a look. Now, it's important to remember that the Hecata as a clan were originally introduced in Chicago by Night for 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade, which, if you were a Kickstarter, that book should be showing up. It's possible that it already has. That book should be showing up in your mailbox any day now. I got mine recently, and if you haven't seen yours yet, you're gonna love it. The Hecata were later fully fleshed out in Cults of the Blood Gods. So in Cults, we learned that the Hecata are made up of the Giovanni, the Harbingers of Skulls, the Semeti, the Flesh-Eating Nagaraja, the Duncerns, the Lamia, the Pisanobs, and the Putanescas. And of course, they're made up of the remnants of the original Clan of Death, the Cappadocians. Now, if you're new to Vampire the Masquerade and you don't know a lot of the lore, let's just touch lightly on what these are. Most of these are bloodlines, with the exception of the Giovanni and technically the Cappadocians. The Semeti, it is believed to have been possibly a Cappadocian bloodline creation, as well as the Harbingers of Skulls. The Semeti are interesting in that they are the most horrific looking vampires. They make the Nosferatu look beautiful. Harbingers of Skulls are very, again, they're just like the Semeti in that they just look horrendous in that their face looks like a skull. The Nagaraja were first introduced in Dirty Secrets of the Black Hand, and this was a group of, like I said, flesh-eating vampires. This was not a playable race. The Duncerns were introduced in the third book of the Giovanni Chronicles. These were beggars that are a bloodline of the Giovanni. The Pisanobs, the Putanescas, and the Lamia, same thing. And the Cappadocians are one of the original clans of Vampire the Masquerade. So why would you bring all these clans together? These are all these bloodlines together better. What's going on here? Well, it's out of need. For the majority of them, these bloodlines are weak. Years of fighting or years of being hunted with everyone and by everyone has left them low in numbers. It's a little different though for the Giovanni, so we got to kind of go into a little of the history of the Giovanni. At the head of the Giovanni table sits Augustus Giovanni, or Uncle Augie as the neonates call him, which I'd imagine he wouldn't appreciate that at all. It was Augustus who pushed his child Claudius to develop the conspiracy of Isaac, and it was Augustus who sank his fangs into the chest of his sire Cappadocius. Now, if you're not familiar with the conspiracy of Isaac, this was a group that Claudius had pulled together of all these different vampires, and the whole point is they wanted to commit diablerie on Cappadocius. And Augustus wanted that to happen. And the reason Augustus wanted this to happen was he was tired of the Giovanni being known as a bloodline. He thought if he was able to diablerize Cappadocius and gain his powers, he would become an antediluvian and therefore bring in the Giovanni from bloodline status to full clan status. So it was a power grab. And so during the conspiracy of Isaac, when it finally came to light and everything was revealed that Augustus was doing this, Augustus is the one who diablerized Cappadocius. But although he was able to lower his generation to that of fourth, he was never able to gain the full powers of an antediluvian. The reason being is he did not consume his sire's soul. And that all plays out in the Giovanni Chronicles Book 1. There are those who were angry with Augustus, namely the founders, the people who founded the Camarilla. They were angry at Augustus and his upstart Giovanni. But Cappadocius had always been kind of this enigma to them. His death wasn't deeply mourned by those outside of his clan, and not even by those within the clan, which is why you see the Harbingers and the Semeti and such. But the founders realized that they had a problem. They knew that something had to be done about this Giovanni clan. So we have the promise of the promise of 1528, wherein the Camarilla states they will stay out of the affairs of the Giovanni and vice versa. It's possible not all things last forever, and now rumors swirl that there is a term limit of 500 years on the deal. And since Claudius Giovanni was the one whom Augustus asked to stand for the clan during the original meeting, since he's dead, Perhaps this is true. Claudius Giovanni was killed by Augustus when he failed to regain one of the Sargon fragments, which is one of Cappadocius's journals. Of course, you would think that Augustus would know the details of the promise, and perhaps he did. It's unfortunate that he's not around to ask, because it seems the head of the head of the Giovanni family, this wannabe antediluvian, is gone, and no one knows for sure if he's dead, if he's in torpor, or perhaps he just walked off into the Shadowland, or whatever. All they know is that he's gone. And in his absence, all the wraiths and specters that he had fettered to him have been unleashed upon the world. And you have to imagine they are a little pissed off. So the possibility of the promise coming to an end, the clan numbers dwindling, other independent clans seeking refuge within the Camarilla, i.e. the La Sombra and the Banu Hakim, means only one thing. The need for numbers is great. And who better to recruit than other necromancers in the night? So that's what happened. The Giovanni went around and started recruiting and saying, basically, hey, we're all similar. Let's just come together. Which brings us to today, where we have this alliance of necromancers. And at least that's what they thought. But strange things happens when alliances of the blood are made, as the power of necromancy becomes the power of Oblivion. And I don't want to go into a lot of detail because Nolan does a great job going over Oblivion and just kind of overviewing it, the dark powers and the ceremonies. So I'll let you listen to that because it's really good. But there is other powers that this clan has, and they are their disciplines are Auspex, of course, Oblivion, and the reason they have Auspex is necromancers need to see spirits. And lastly, they have Fortitude. It's a little different than how a Ventrue uses Fortitude, though. I mean, Ventrue uses it and it's like his flesh turns to stone. With the Hecata, it's more like beating a corpse, which is really creepy to say, but that's what it is. Imagine just pounding on a corpse. It's not going to respond. Or shooting a corpse. There's not going to be much of a reaction. Well, there's not going to be any reaction at all. So that's how the Fortitude manifests within the Hecata. Malleability of the blood is commonplace for these undead, and not all of them are the same. So I have to, I mentioned the Samedi earlier, and I have to ask, what good is a Samedi who can't hide their appearance? Therefore, a Samedi may forego their knowledge of Auspex and become a master of Obfuscate instead. Likewise, someone who is originally of the Nagaraja may choose to learn Dominate, or one of the Lamia may replace Fortitude with Potence. Again, not all Hecata are alike. When it comes to embracing new vampires into the fold, Hecata tend to be very particular about who they give the gift of immortality. Rather than embracing spontaneously, they tend to observe, groom, and then vote on who they will bring into the night. They like to look for those who are already part of their family, very similar to how the Giovanni used to do it. And they're also very particular of those who bring a benefit to the clan or have already developed a morbid curiosity with death. And that really goes to the Cappadocian side, who are still very, very intrigued by death. And again, this is the clan of death, right? So there you go. As a player, you have to keep in mind that for the Hecata, feeding is the stuff of nightmares. This isn't something you're going to be able to do and it's going to be, oh, great, that was awesome. No, this is horrible. For other clans, the bite of the vampire may feel somewhat euphoric. For the Hecata, it is painful, and the victim will actively try to get away. It is for this reason, then, that the Hecata often find other ways to feed. Things like needles, blood bags, or even a bit of bloodletting are viable options. So there you have it. A brief, very brief overview of the Clan of Death, the Hecata, and how they exist in these modern nights. We don't want to go too deep because at the end of the day, we'd like you to support the book and support those who created it. But we do want to give you just enough to let you know that this is out there, and Cults of the Blood God, although already funded through Kickstarter, should be available on backer kits soon, as Onyx Path does with all of their books. So that's it for this week, folks. Next week, we kick off our dive into Mage the Ascension. It's a game that we've all been interested in but have never played. So we've lined up some interviews with some folks from Mage the Podcast. Both Adam Simpson and Terry Robinson will be joining us, and we're going to be looking at the 9 traditions as well as potentially building a character on the podcast, which will be available to our Patreon users. All right, guys, so that is our show for the night. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you for hanging in there with our month of Cults of the Blood Gods. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the Hecata, and I hope you enjoy everything else that we've done on Oblivion and everything else with this book. Guys, unless you got something else, why don't we, Nolan, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at @InLemiers.
And Cody, how about you?
I'm on Twitter at Alpha LCD.
And of course, if you want to find me, you can find me at just about every social media at 307RPG, except Facebook, because it's still the 4 channel because it's dumb.
That'll work.
That'll work. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will join us next week as we interview Adam Simpson as we start. What is it, Cody?
Majember.
What was Majember?
No, wait. Majebuary. Shit. Majebuary. I don't even know where I am.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.